Hey everyone, this is Michael Green. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the 2018 Roger Millikan men's Cat 3 race. There was a little bit of discussion about kind of what we went into the day with and what our plan was in general and how we were planning to execute it. So I thought a voiceover would be super helpful just to kind of track what we were talking about and show the plan unfolding. So at this point in the race, we were probably, maybe 10, 12 minutes to finishing, so about 38 minutes into the race or so. And up to this juncture, I'd been pretty relaxed sitting in the back of the field, midway through the field. I think it took one pull, maybe 20 minutes in, where I was at the front chasing down, I believe, the Roman Echo attack with probably one full lap on my own, and then Matt came up and was like, "Mike, what are you doing?" So I kind of went back into just sit and rest mode at this point of the race. The goal going into today was keep tabs on Roman Echo, who we knew based on past history with racing with him, he is a breakaway artist. That's the main trick he's got in the bag, and that's all because he's extremely strong and relentless. I mean, the guy is just constantly attacking until eventually whoever's at the front of the field time he attacks just breaks. And he's done it at Ontario, he's done it at Ladera Ranch, he's done it at Manhattan Beach to finish off the year. So we've had experiences with him where he's broken away. So I think a lot of the field knew that going in and kept him at the top of their list to not let him break away. I can understand this was probably super frustrating for him because he wasn't able to make any of his breaks stick, because as soon as he did it with such a pronounced push that by the time he got to the front and he's looking around for people to help, everyone was either gassed or they just knew he was so strong that he was probably going to try to drop him at some point in the race. So what's the point in trying to follow and help him out only to get dropped, right? So I know that was probably super frustrating with him. So at this point of the race, kind of to pick things up where we are, I'm sitting in the kind of midway back third of the race. Wasn't a huge field, probably about 40 guys total to start, and we probably ended with around 30 or so. And I was keeping close tabs on what was going on at the front. Not that I could control anything, because the plan was for me just to sit in, conserve my energy, and be ready for the sprint at the end. So the guys that were putting in kind of on duty would be Matt, Marcel, and Chris had started the race, and I know he had a rough day before, so he pulled out early, I believe. So Marcel was doing a really, really good job in kind of keeping Roman Echo in his sights. That's kind of what we put him on Sasha duty. And at this point in the race, I believe Matt is off the front doing solo. I want to say the last few laps he's been out there by himself. There's a few guys that start a little bit of a break from this main group to try to catch up to him. You'll see the group kind of splinter at the front a little bit. Definitely some strong guys that bridged up to him, but nothing that I felt in kind of the plan that we had in place that I felt was serious enough to warrant any too much concern. Matt was really just going off the front to try to bait the race to go a little bit faster, to try to catch him eventually. I don't think he anticipated that it would be 6 or 7 laps that it would take to get to him. I think if he knew that, our plan, the alternative plan, would have been for him to stick that brake and just stick it to the field and win solo, which he's done before. He's a super, super strong rider, as you guys know, and so he definitely had the capability of doing that. But I think at this point he wasn't quite sure how far back we were and what the motivation of the field was. But as you can see, kind of looking at the video, we're not, the main field's not really panicked. We're not pushing a lot of these corners too fast. 27, 28 miles an hour is not, nothing too bad. You see everyone's kind of sitting up. There's a couple little surges here and there, but nothing crazy. Everyone was pretty relaxed, and you can kind of look at my watts right now. It's just at the hill, but once you see me turn around this corner, it almost feels like everyone sits up and just is biding their time until we go down to the sprint. 'Cause I think at this point, with less than 10 minutes to go, everyone's thinking, yep, we got less than, probably I want to say 3 or 4 laps at this point, and it's going to come down to a sprint. So you can see that guy just out the front peel off the front and try to bridge. That happened a couple times. I think at this point Roman Echo was at the back of the field after kind of attacking and doing his best to split the group, which just didn't happen, unfortunately, for him. So great for us, obviously. So he was in the back, probably trying to catch his breath, figuring out when would be a good time for him to attempt one last attack, which for him, as you'll see later in the video, was on the back stretch, which wasn't, unfortunately, ultimately successful for him. I think he might have just gone a little bit early, or just after the matches he burned, he just didn't have it in his legs. So going into this, I'm keeping track of a couple wheels, specifically Marcel, because I know he's so strong. Got Zeb right there with Adams Avenue. He's also another guy that I'm keeping tabs on because he's extremely strong. I've watched him on at the track, and he's just got some good legs. So a couple guys that I'm watching for. You see me poke out a couple times throughout this race where I'm kind of checking out the front to see who's up there, and you see going through these corners. We're stretching it out a little bit, which is nice. It keeps it going, and this is where I think the field starts to get a little bit more motivated to catch that front group that we've kind of let dangle off the front for a few laps, and especially with a few guys bridging that were strong. That if we knew if they were to meet up and everyone started to work together, this was a race that could have gotten out of reach. And so there were some definite moments of what's going to happen here. But again, you got to go in with a plan and know that you got teammates that are going to be there to do what they have to do, and you just have to sit in and save your energy if you're the sprinter, and just stay safe. I think that's the biggest thing. Staying safe, riding the right wheels, guys that you've raced with before, taking the right corners and turns. The first part of this race, I was actually, contrary to the end, I was kind of sticking to the outside. I'm not really sure why. It just seemed to be the lines that were most, there was the most space. But and the race wasn't going fast enough that I felt worried that I was going to get pinched too much. So I kind of just stuck to that particular line for quite a while, and it also allowed me a little space on the outside if I did need to move up. I didn't necessarily want to get caught in the middle, so to speak, which you'll see I do right here a little bit, but then I move all the way across just so I can again have a little bit of an opening. And this is where I start to stay on the inside of the race. It's probably got 2 laps to go, and we're going into we're in the 3rd lap right now, going into the 2nd lap to go, and I now am getting ready to go. You see the group starting to pick up the pace a little bit, 30 miles up this little hill. I mean, that's pretty good. There's a guy that's going to pass me on my right now. His name, I can't remember his name, but he's a rider I've ridden with before, super strong. I believe he's one of their sprinters, and so I wanted to keep in contact with him a little bit. You can see Marcel was doing his little deal up the front, keeping the pace high and keeping things moving forward. And now we're no longer doing 21, 22 through this section like we did this last couple laps. Now we're at 26 up to in some cases 30. And it's weird, we had these little bits of surges here and there where the group was really pushing it, and then they would just sit up, almost like we were close enough to the breakaway group, which you'll see in a second here, turn right at this first corner. There they go right there. And so we were close enough that I think they weren't worried about catching them right that exact instant. I think there was enough space between now and the next 2 laps to let them dangle off the front. But then these 2 guys go, and then I was a little worried, I guess you could say, and excited. And I wanted to make sure I stayed in contact with these guys because no one at the front at the time was willing to kind of bridge this down. But you could tell it looks like this little attempt at bridging it broke down really fast, and the guy that went off the front was the only one doing any work, and this guy in front of me was also a sprinter, so he was there at the end. So I think he was really interested in trying to do much work in this little break. So you can see in that front group, Matt is at the back. He had just, like I said, been off the front for by himself for about 6-7 laps, and then finally this group of 3 caught up to him. But there wasn't any cooperation. He wasn't going to cooperate, knowing that we had me in the field, Marcel, and so he was just kind of just sitting, doing his thing. His work for the day and baiting the group to come get him worked, wear everyone down a little bit. So now these 3 guys have done a bunch of work to catch up and bridge across, and they're all a little bit tired. And so now we're going to the final lap of this race. Things are going to start getting a little spirited. You'll see people looking around, like who's gonna go, who's gonna be the guy who's gonna lead this out. Roman Echo's there on the right hand side in the pink helmet. Again, he's just been sitting on the back for the last 4 or 5 laps, just catching his breath, kind of building up some of that energy. And you got Marcel right on his wheel, just had to be assigned him to do. The race again is not moving too fast, and it's right here is kind of weird. I end up losing some spaces with the field swarming a little bit, and right here I made a conscious decision, because I could have gotten trapped on the inside of this guy, but I decided to push to the outside, make up some space, especially with the speed catching up a little bit. I knew I could go into this corner and everything would kind of push to the outside, and it wasn't like it was super fast, so I felt comfortable doing that. So now I'm in 5th wheel, which is perfect down this stretch, and Roman Echo is now turning it on. I mean, you see the speed. This is a little bit of a headwind right here. We're at 35, 36 miles an hour. He's working, and then he's weaving across the road, trying to drop the field. And Marcel at this point has had enough. He's done. So I then start to recognize the attack, and this is where I go. This is where I won last year. I hit this hill as hard as I possibly could. I had some fresh legs, and Matt is still in the barrel, so I was able to take care of those, go through this corner safely. And at this point I had a decent little gap, and now it's just about finishing. Now it's just putting on whatever power and whatever energy I have left to get those pedals going, and sit up, look around, and nobody was there, and had a nice little gap for the finish and a win. Great overall team effort though, and great win.